The Returning, Becoming Your Own Source, by David Rousseau. Introduction. The circle completes itself. Spiritual growth is often imagined as a straight path upward, a climb towards some distant summit. But the truth is more like a circle. You awaken, you dissolve, you rebuild, and eventually, you return. The final stage, the one this audiobook explores, is not about searching, striving, or accumulating more. It is about stepping fully into your own authority, your own clarity, your own presence. The returning is about mastery. It is about becoming your own source rather than depending on teachers, signs, or external validation. It is not a guide on how to be someone else, or how to reach some idealized version of yourself. It is an invitation to inhabit the fullness of who you already are, your own compass, your own inner teacher, your own creative force. In these pages, you will encounter moments that mark a shift from student to sovereign. You will explore the realization that permission is not required, that presence is strength, that emotions are observed, not feared. You will learn to see through illusions and patterns, to stop chasing healing, and to recognize that your thoughts and energy are shaping your life in every moment. This journey is practical and felt in everyday life. It is not about escaping the world or bypassing challenges. It is about walking back into life with your clarity intact, with softness and power coexisting, and with the quiet confidence of someone who knows they are enough. By the end, you do not just return, you arrive. You return not as a seeker, but as a creator, fully responsible for your life, fully present, fully sourced from within. The circle completes itself when you stop looking outward for authority and start looking inward for truth. This is the beginning of the stage where spiritual maturity meets living, where mastery is not a destination, but a way of being. Welcome to the return. Chapter 1. The moment you realize you no longer need permission. There comes a moment in every spiritual journey when the waiting stops. You realize that no sign, no teacher, no ritual, no external authority can validate what is already true inside you. You are done asking for permission. This chapter is about that. Shift the instant you step fully into your own inner authority. It is the moment when the question changes from "Am I doing this right?" to "I know this is right for me." Your intuition, your clarity, your inner voice suddenly feels enough. You don't need approval. You don't need validation. You simply act from knowing. It is not a loud or dramatic moment. Often, it is quiet, almost imperceptible at first. A subtle shift in how you move through the world, how you make decisions, how you feel about yourself. The old habit of seeking guidance from outside begins to loosen. You notice how little your outer circumstances can shake the inner certainty you now carry. Stepping into your sovereignty is both liberating and grounding. You feel lighter because you are no longer bound by the expectations of others, and you feel stronger because the power you have been seeking externally has always been within you. This chapter invites you to recognize that you have been the authority all along. Your inner wisdom is sufficient, your intuition is reliable, and your clarity is your compass. This is the foundational shift from being a student to being a sovereign, a shift that changes how you experience life, make choices, and create reality. Once you realize you no longer need permission, everything changes. The world becomes a canvas. Your actions are deliberate, and your presence carries weight. This is the first step in becoming your own source. Chapter 2. When you learn to move from vision, not fear. There is a moment in your life when you stop reacting and start creating. When you stop running from what scares you, and instead begin moving toward what calls you forward. This chapter is about that shift, the transition from living by fear to living from vision. Living from fear keeps you trapped in reaction. Every choice is defensive, every step hesitant, every moment shaped by survival. But living from vision is entirely different. You begin to sense what wants to emerge in your life. You feel the pool of possibilities that expand you, rather than shrink you. You start to release old survival patterns, behaviors, thoughts, and habits that no longer serve your growth. When you move from vision, life becomes a deliberate expression rather than a series of reactions. Decisions are guided not by panic or worrying, but by what inspires and resonates with your inner truth. Your energy shifts, your actions carry intention. You create space for life to meet you, rather than trying to control it. This chapter invites you to notice where fear has been quietly steering you, and to take the first steps toward choosing differently. It is in this space of conscious movement that creativity and freedom arise. You are no longer at the mercy of circumstance. You are shaping your reality with clarity and purpose. The journey from fear to vision is gradual, yet profound. Each step you take toward what expands you is a reclaiming of your sovereignty. You learn that life does not have to be a series of reactions. It can be an unfolding of your own design. And in that unfolding, you begin to live as a creator, fully aware that your inner vision is the compass guiding your every move. Chapter 3: The Power of Staying. When presence becomes strength. There is a profound moment on the journey when you realize that your greatest power is not in doing more, speaking louder, or controlling outcomes. It is in staying present, staying calm, staying rooted. This chapter explores the subtle yet transformative strength that comes from presence. Spiritual maturity is often measured not by how much you know, but by how you hold yourself in the face of tension, uncertainty, or conflict. You notice that reacting impulsively, arguing, or forcing situations rarely produces meaningful results. Instead, simply being grounded, centered, and still changes the dynamics around you. Presence becomes influence. Stillness becomes strength. This is not about withdrawing or avoiding. It is about inhabiting yourself fully, even when the world seems chaotic. When you stay present, your energy stabilizes the space around you. Others feel it. Situations respond differently. The power is quiet, but unmistakable. In this chapter, you are invited to explore the difference between activity and action. Activity is movement without purpose. Action is movement aligned with clarity. By staying, you discover how to respond from wisdom rather than reaction, how to influence without force, and how to embody calm in ways that ripple outward. The power of staying is a mastery that reveals itself gradually. The more you practice it, the more it becomes your natural state. It transforms your life not through effort, but through the integrity of your presence. And once you recognize this, you begin to see that the most profound impact comes from who you are, not what you do. Chapter 4: The Moment You See Through Illusions. At some point on the journey, your vision sharpens, the fog of appearances lifts, and you begin to see clearly not just in others, but in yourself. This chapter explores the moment when illusions no longer hold sway, when the masks, the narratives, and the subtle manipulations of life are recognized for what they truly are. You notice the ego behind its disguises. You recognize social conditioning and expectations for the empty frameworks they are. You see patterns repeating in your own life, not as failures, but as invitations to awareness. Truth becomes both liberating and sobering. The world is no longer quite the same. Nothing can be taken at face value anymore. This clarity is not about cynicism or harsh judgment. It is about compassion and discernment. You see the forces at play, the subtle motivations, the recurring cycles, and you understand them without needing to react. You stop being fooled by appearances because your attention is rooted in perception, not projection. In this chapter, you are invited to notice where illusions may still hold you, where fear, habit, or old stories have quietly influenced your decisions. Seeing clearly is a gift, but it comes with responsibility. Once you see, you cannot unsee. Your choices, your energy, and your presence are now informed by truth. The moment you see through illusions is a turning point. It is where innocence meets insight, where awareness transforms uncertainty into empowerment. From this place, you begin to act with clarity, navigate life with confidence, and hold your power without attachment to outcome. You are no longer at the mercy of deception inside or outside yourself. You see, and seeing changes everything. Chapter 5: When you become the witness of your emotions. There comes a moment in your journey when you stop being swept away by your emotions and start observing them. This chapter explores that pivotal shift, from drowning in feelings to witnessing them with awareness and compassion. Being the witness does not mean suppressing anger, sadness, or fear. It means recognizing these emotions as passing currents within you, not permanent fixtures or definitions of who you are. You begin to see them as signals, messages, and energy moving through you, rather than storms that control you. This perspective brings freedom. you realize that you do not need to react impulsively or identify with every surge of emotion. You can pause, breathe, and allow what arises without judgment. In doing so, your emotional life becomes a mirror rather than a prison. You are not the storm, you are the sky in which the storm moves. The process of witnessing is subtle at first, a flash of irritation, a wave of sadness, a moment of anxiety. Each becomes an opportunity to practice presence. With time, you notice a calmness growing within, a spaciousness that allows you to respond from clarity instead of instinct. Your relationships, your work, your creative life all shift as your emotional center strengthens. This chapter invites you to embrace the power of presence in your emotional world. By stepping back and observing, you cultivate resilience, compassion, and clarity. Emotional mastery is not about control, it is about awareness. And in that awareness, you discover a profound inner freedom, the ability to feel fully, act wisely, and remain steady, no matter what arises. Chapter 6. The moment you understand karma as pattern, not punishment. There is a turning point on the journey, when you stop seeing life as a series of rewards and punishments and begin to recognize the patterns that shape your experiences. This chapter explores the moment you understand karma not as retribution, but as repetition. For years, life may have felt like a cycle of good and bad outcomes, moments of frustration or failure that seemed unfair. But in truth, every recurring struggle is simply an unbroken pattern, a habit, or a belief that keeps replaying until it is recognized. Karma, when seen clearly, is not something done to you. It is something you have unconsciously created, and something you can consciously change. This realization brings liberation. When you see the pattern, it loses its power. You begin to notice the triggers, the habits, the repeated thoughts and choices that have kept you looping. Awareness allows you to break free not through force, but through understanding. You no longer experience life as a string of random punishments. You experience it as a mirror, reflecting where growth is needed, where clarity is emerging. In this chapter, you are invited to examine your own cycles with curiosity and compassion. Notice the situations, relationships, and reactions that seem to repeat. Watch the ways your mind, your body, and your energy respond. And instead of judgment or resistance, allow observation to create insight. Understanding karma as pattern changes how you move through life. You stop blaming the world and stop blaming yourself. Instead, you take responsibility for your patterns, and in doing so, you reclaim your power. Freedom arises not from escaping consequences, but from seeing clearly how your own life has been unfolding, and from choosing differently from this moment forward. Chapter 7. When you stop chasing healing. There comes a moment on the journey when you realize you are not broken, not damaged, not in need of constant fixing. This chapter explores that profound turning point, the moment you stop chasing healing and begin simply trusting your wholeness. For much of life, it can feel as though personal growth is a project, a list of flaws to correct, wounds to mend, and experiences to perfect. But this chasing creates tension, anxiety, and a subtle sense of inadequacy. The more you pursue healing as something outside yourself, the more distant it seems. Then comes the shift. You stop striving to become better and start allowing yourself to be. You recognize that your so-called wounds have been teachers, your struggles have been guides, and your growth is unfolding naturally. Healing becomes integration, not correction. You no longer measure your value by how fixed you feel. Instead, you honor the journey you have already lived, and the wisdom it has given you. This chapter invites you to embrace a gentle, radical self-acceptance. You begin to notice the moments when you've been resisting yourself, trying to force perfection. You release the tension of chasing outcomes and allow your life to unfold with trust. You see that the wholeness you seek has always been within you, waiting for acknowledgement rather than construction. Stopping the chase transforms your energy. You move from striving to resting, from pressure to presence, from scarcity to abundance. The freedom that arises is profound. You no longer chase healing because you are already whole. You simply live, integrate, and allow yourself to shine exactly as you are. Chapter 8. The moment you recognize you're creating reality. At some point on the journey, clarity emerges, your life is not happening to you. It is being created by you. This chapter explores the moment when you see the undeniable link between your inner state and the world around you, and when creation becomes conscious. Before this shift, it can feel as though events simply unfold randomly, as if the world has its own agenda. But you begin to notice the patterns, the ways your thoughts, intentions, energy, and boundaries shape your experiences. What you focus on, how you move, what you allow, all of it carries a creative weight. You are not just reacting to life, you are influencing it in every moment. Whether consciously or unconsciously, recognizing your role as a creator is empowering, and it carries responsibility. Your emotions, your words, your presence, and your actions ripple outward, shaping the reality you inhabit. This awareness invites careful attention. You learn to choose deliberately, to act from alignment rather than impulse, and to cultivate the inner conditions that give rise to the life you want to live. This chapter is about embracing your agency. You begin to notice when fear, old patterns, or reactive habits have been shaping outcomes, and you consciously step out of them. You start creating from a place of clarity, vision, and intentionality. Every interaction, every decision, every moment of attention becomes an act of co-creation with life itself. The moment you recognize your creative power is a turning point. You no longer see yourself as a passive observer. You are the artist of your life, and your inner state is the brushstroke that shapes every experience. Reality is no longer something that happens. You are now fully participating in its unfolding, guided by awareness, choice, and presence. Chapter 9, Becoming the Source. When guidance comes from within, there comes a profound moment on the journey when you stop reaching outward for signs, messages, or spiritual experiences. You realize that the guidance you have been seeking has always been inside you. This chapter explores the shift from searching to sourcing, from looking up to looking within. In the past, you may have relied on teachers, rituals, or external validation to navigate life. But over time, a quiet certainty begins to emerge. Your intuition is clear, your knowing is immediate, and your connection is constant. You no longer wait for confirmation or reassurance because you have learned to trust yourself fully. Becoming the source is not about ego or self-importance. It is about aligning with the deeper presence of your own consciousness, the part of you that is aware, steady, and attuned. Your decisions flow from clarity rather than fear. Your energy radiates coherence rather than chaos. You are no longer a vessel seeking wisdom, you are the vessel, fully aware, fully present. This chapter invites you to experience the freedom of internal guidance. You begin to notice the subtle signals of your intuition, a quiet nudge, a sense of alignment, a feeling that resonates deeply. Acting from this inner authority feels effortless yet powerful. Life becomes a dialogue, not a puzzle. You respond rather than react, create rather than chase, and move with trust rather than uncertainty. When guidance comes from within, you carry the world differently. You speak with clarity, act with integrity, and navigate challenges with a steady presence. You no longer rely on external sources to validate your path. You are whole, connected, and self-sourced. This is the moment of true sovereignty, the moment when your inner authority becomes your guiding light in every aspect of life. Chapter 10, The Return, Walking the World as Yourself. The final stage of the journey is not about escaping the world or retreating from life. It is about returning fully, deeply, and unapologetically as yourself. This chapter explores what it means to walk the world with clarity, softness, wisdom, and power, carrying your presence without needing to prove or perform. After years of searching, learning, and integrating, you come to a quiet truth. You do not need to hide, adapt, or chase approval. You no longer step lightly to avoid judgment. You walk firmly because you are rooted in your own authority. Your words are aligned with your truth. Your actions are deliberate, and your energy resonates with integrity. Presence becomes your guide, and authenticity becomes your signature. Walking the world as yourself does not mean perfection. It means showing up fully, even with vulnerability, even with imperfection. You give without losing yourself, speak without fear, and carry light without forcing it. The world is no longer a testing ground or a teacher. It is a stage for your conscious participation. You interact with life as a creator, not a seeker, and every moment becomes an opportunity to embody the clarity, strength, and softness you have cultivated. This chapter invites you to notice how your presence affects everything around you. The quiet authority you now carry changes dynamics, calms tension, and inspires others without effort. You are no longer reacting to life, you are walking in harmony with it, fully grounded, fully alive, fully yourself. Returning to the world as yourself is the culmination of the spiritual journey. It is the point where inner mastery meets daily living, where wisdom is not just known but lived. You do not just exist, you move, speak, and create from the center of your being. You have returned, not as someone you are trying to become, but as who you have always been beneath it all, whole, sovereign, and fully sourced from within. Conclusion, and now you begin. The journey does not end here. In fact, this is where it truly begins. Spiritual mastery is not a destination, a certificate, or a final achievement. It is a way of being that unfolds moment by moment, breath by breath, choice by choice. What you have learned in these chapters is not theory. It is a lived practice, a shift in perception that now guides how you move through life. You have returned from seeking, from striving, from looking outward for permission, validation, or answers. You have discovered that your authority, your clarity, and your guidance have always been within you. You have seen patterns clearly, witnessed emotions without being overwhelmed, and begun to create reality consciously. You have learned to stay, to act from vision, to see through illusions, and to carry presence as power. Now, the circle completes itself. You walk into the world fully present, fully sourced, fully yourself. Life is no longer something that happens to you. It is a canvas for your conscious participation. Every thought, every word, every gesture is an expression of the sovereign presence you have cultivated. And yet, even in mastery, there is always more to explore, more depth to feel, more clarity to embody. This is not the end of your journey, it is the invitation to live it fully, to speak truth without fear, to give without losing yourself, to move through the world with softness and strength intertwined, to remember, in every moment, that you are whole, you are enough, and you are the source of your own life. And so, as this audiobook closes, it is not a farewell, it is a beginning, a return into life, into presence, into your own power. The circle continues, and now, you are walking it consciously, fully awake, and fully yourself.